Jivante, now we are live on YouTube.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I will just repeat what I said in the beginning. So, as I was requested to give some advice of how to accelerate the studies for those who want to put more effort in their own time, I give you some recommendations for other sources, as well as few tips of how to use the documents in the shared folder that we have here. So one very helpful book as to begin with is Thai for Beginners, written by Benjawan Pumzenbecker. I put here the um, name of the book so you can see how it's written. Okay, Thai for Beginners by Benjawan Pumzenbecker. So this is a book that gives all-round foundation in Thai, both in terms of reading, writing, pronunciation, some tone rules, sound rules, basic vocabulary, and then using all those things together in sentences and reading, for example, using the new vocabulary, some basic grammar rules, the reading and writing rules all together. So one get a kind of all-round foundation. I just have to give a little bit of information about it, that it's also not always accurate. So it's good for beginning because it's not too demanding, but those who would like to eventually have a refined level of Thai skill in the Thai language will eventually have to learn more advanced materials that might reject what is said in this book. For example, the sound rules, eventually when one kind of become more refined about them, you see that it's actually not exactly the way it's described in the book. But for beginning, it's good because one gets kind of all-around knowledge, and then it's become usable. Otherwise, if one try to be too accurate from the beginning, one cannot really move anywhere, and yeah, basically it's become too difficult. So it's actually good to have even not 100% accurate pronunciation or understanding of the rules, but enough to be able to communicate, and then later on refine it. This is my advice. So this is one book. There is another book which is also available in the internet, and there is also application associated with it, which is a Glossica. I'll just write it down. Um, Glossica. So there is it is in the internet. It is a um, different system, very different than the type for beginners. I don't know. Yeah, can you see Glossica? Um, it is based only on sentences, so one doesn't learn all the different rules and basic vocabulary. One goes immediately into sentences, and simply by learning many sentences, also listening to them, there are recordings in the internet, and writing them down, one just absorbs them bit by bit. So for example, one have in the beginning sentences in the present tense, then you get the similar sentences in future tense. So one make his own inference by himself. One gets the conclusion by himself without being explained about the different rules. So it's a different kind of system that just give one a lot of sentences. I used it for learning Hindi, for example, the same system called Glossica. So in the internet, one can have also an application. I think it may cost money, but there's also a possibility just to have the sentences themselves downloaded, so one can just read them, and then it's completely for free, as much as I know. So you can look it up in the internet and decide what you like. For some people, this system is more suitable. They don't like to learn too much about rules and get stuck on it, but simply by learning many sentences, they gradually, the pattern kind of being internalized. For other people, it's actually helpful to understand the rule and then learn bit by bit sentences while knowing the rules, and then things make sense. So my recommendation is simply to choose one of those and do it thoroughly. Then when finish, one can go to the other system and do that one thoroughly, because no one system will be actually complete. If one just learn the sentences, eventually one will have some doubts about rules and about sentences which don't appear. But if one just learn the rules, maybe one still doesn't get enough confidence about various sentences, and actually one feel he gets stuck on a very basic level without being able to communicate. So these are two recommendations for beginning. Later on, there are more advanced books, more refined grammar books, and pronunciation books, which I did work with, and I found particularly two of them to be very helpful. But yeah, maybe for now I will keep it like that. And in future, if I will be asked again, I will refer to them. Now, another thing is how to work with the material that we have here on the folder. So basically, there are already some, no, it's not this one, some documents here which can be shared. I don't know, do you see now the various documents? Does it appear for you? For example, there are the colors,
No.
10 colors.
Bante, you have to share. You have to click on the share button.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I think now it should be okay. So for example, there is a,
Kindly share again, Bante, once.
is it now shared?
Now, please share now to the video.
Now it's being shared.
We can't see at that time it was not allowed, but now I have allowed it as a host. Please kindly once again share. Please share the button.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So for example, there are the 10 colors, you see? Is it shared? Is it being shared? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then there is else? A moment. E- Yeah. Or now, for example, recently I uploaded these kind of pronouns, which is very essential for learning, of course, the language, the pronouns. We have like me, I, there is pom or chan. So actually pom is both male and female, and chan nowadays is only female. In the past it was also for males, but this is one, or he, him, you. So just as a general advice, how to learn all those things, because now there's quite a lot of information. There's the pronouns and adjectives and basic objects, which are all kind of basic, but how to learn them to the level of actually having confidence about them. So I recommend a lot about memorization. Um, and there are different principles, several principles of how to memorize it. I have used when I studied Thai and also now when I study Hindi. So as a basic kind of principle, one will go first to the simple, more simple things, rather than to learn directly sentences. You have learned are very good because you could already apply them and have some motivation arising from it. So these are good, like greeting sentences as a beginning. But farther on, when one actually want to learn a language or to get some ability to understand, to speak, then I will recommend actually first start with the most basic things, such as vocabulary. Vocabulary, just one word at a time. And for example, these pronouns can be a good list for beginning because it will appear in every sentence later on. So here there are 9 pronouns like I, you, he, she, and this, that, they, we, us, all these kind of various pronouns. And there are various techniques or principles also on how to memorize them. So one thing is called spaced repetition. Maybe some of you have heard about it. It's kind of very known principle of memorization that one need to kind of learn something, then let go of it for some time, and then repeat it. Maybe recall it from memory again, and then let go of it, and then again recall it. So gradually it goes deeper to the long-term memory. It's not enough just to repeat a certain word many times quickly, like, okay, that, none, and then none, 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 and then just let go of it completely. Then the next day it will be gone because there were no spaced repetitions of this, what was learned. So a good way to learn something is, for example, one learn 9 new words, for example, those, or a chapter, let's say, this kind of pronouns. And then once one have learned them, finish those 9, then one test himself. Okay, let's see what was the first word, recall it. Check oneself. If one doesn't remember, one learn it again, repeat it a few times, and then go to the next one, the second, check himself, does he remember it? And so on, all the 9. After that, he looked to those words that he couldn't recall. For example, let's say word number 3 he didn't recall, and again he correct himself, and eventually does another round to see that now we can recall all those words. Then one can let go of it for some time, maybe in the evening or after a few hours, doing another check. Now with those words that he have learned already, if he managed to recall them, he become more confident about them. And then it will be strengthened, his memory. But those words that he couldn't remember, he will again teach himself, and then he will realize that actually it was just there. He actually knew them, but he just needed another kind of a hint or another um, help in recalling them. So he will learn them again, and then it will be more deeply memorized. And then the next day, again, recall of what you have learned. Now it will become much easier. So one can then recall, let's say, once a day, those 9, 10 words that you have learned, once a day until you become kind of have a sense of fluency about them, then reduce it to once a week or once a month. This is kind of a basic principle that there is a gradual decrease of the frequency of repetitions. Of course, there are more kind of scientific ways to do it, like there is a famous Leitner box, but I think for most people, it's actually become a bit of a burden to follow exactly the schedule. I don't know, I never really followed it according to the rules. I had more my own sense of what is actually fluently memorized and what still needs a frequent repetition. So this is an important principle that just by repeating something many, many times, quickly, it doesn't go to the long-term memory. One needs to have some space and then recall it again. Then have some space, recall it again. And once when one is confident, one can reduce the frequency. Once a day, once a week, once a month. So spaced repetition is an important principle. Now, another very helpful tool that I use a lot is a kind of mnemonic, or it's called, for example, the most known one is Memory Palace, where one uses imagination. For example, one want to learn the word none here, and the pronoun is that. So one has to create some kind of an image which will be well memorable, yeah, easy to memorize. So for example, one think of image that can represent symbolically the word that, this sense. For example, we have this and we have that. Number 8 is this and number 9 is that, yeah? So this is generally something which is very close. So just to give an example, but in reality, every one of you might have his own kind of association or connotation to that word, to that concept. So for example, for this, somebody might imagine kind of pointing with a finger to something that is very close. Let's say, this is a kettle, you see? Kettle, okay? So it's a kind of a funny image which will be very easily memorable. That there is kind of a finger in a funny way, almost caricaturically, comically, pointing to some kind of an object that is right here in front of us. While that can be something very far. So to exaggerate it, because when we exaggerate it easier and more memorable, we can imagine somebody pointing to a very far mountains, like the Himalaya mountains. That, over there, very far away. And then one can connect to it the sound, how it should sound. So one can remember what is this and what is that. So this will be ni. So we can think of any word either in English or for you in Hindi or any other language that you speak, which sounds similar to ni. For example, it can be need, or it can be niche, or it can be ni in Pali is usually a negation word, like nidaro, no fear, for example. So one can use this kind of similar word that come kind of almost instinctively associated with ni. What is the first word coming for ni? Maybe need. So, or let's say, yeah, need. So need, one can have something symbolically resembles need. For example, need to eat and drink, or water. So one can imagine this kettle, somebody pointing out to it in a very funny, kind of exaggerated way. Here, it's here, and there is a lot of a bottle of water coming out of it, like this. So it's a bit funny here. And what is this? The water represents a need. But you have to come up with something that makes sense to you, because maybe for you, water doesn't resemble need. And then if you just see it, it will not mean anything to you. So whatever makes sense to you, then you recall it. And because our visual memory is much better just than a kind of repetition by what we call rote repetition, like say, ni means this means ni, and eventually it kind of doesn't make sense when one learns 10 new words and it's kind of all forgotten. But when one has such a kind of a funny image, one thinks, okay, what is here, right here? And then one immediately has this kind of image of pointing to something which is very close, the kettle come to mind, and then the water, which represents a need, or whatever for you represents need, or if you have other word, ni, it was ni, here is ni. And then on the mountain, you have none. So none, you can have the word in English, for example, none, nothing. So you have the mountain and they completely disappear, or the clouds completely hide them. So it become none of the mountain, none is there. And then you have, okay, when you try to recall it later, you think, okay, what was that? So that is something far away. So you see those mountains, and then those mountains, you have already this kind of very vivid image that you created in your own mind of the mountains disappearing. None of them is left, whatever it is. But of course, it's much better when you do it yourself with what makes sense for yourself. Because when you create those images, you memorize them better. So I actually later on, after you master this kind of skill of memorizing just vocabulary, you will be able even to use it to memorize sentences. For example, I used it for memorizing sentences in Pali and in Hindi and grammar rules as well. The more complicated information, the more difficult it is in a way. But with experience, you kind of learn to know what works for your memory and for your imagination, what makes sense for you, and you get to know how to work with it. So this is just a basic layout of how to work with these things. So for example, you can decide one day to learn the 9 pronouns. So you learn I, and you create the image, whatever it is. Just don't get stuck about it too much, maybe 10, 15 seconds to create this kind of meaning between I is Pom or Chan. After 15 seconds, you go to the second one, that is you, which is Kun. And you create something like you, yeah, you can have the letter U or whatever, and Kun in Hindi is blood or something like that. So you can have it full with blood, or you can have your own imagination. What does it mean? Be careful of using too frightening images, because then it's later a burden on the mind. But usually if it's just funny image, it's quite nice. Then you go to the third one, and after you go through all these 9 words, having image to each one of them, you do a recall check. Because if you don't immediately recall, later on, if you try to recall it the next day, it might be completely vague and lost. So after you learned a whole set of new information, you make a recall check from beginning to end and see what's actually being retained in the mind. Then you see maybe the 5th image disappeared. So you look at the words in the vocabulary, the list, and then actually usually after you see it, the image comes back to mind. Or it may be that in some other word number 7, the image appear, but somehow you don't know the meaning. You see some kind of a U with a blood, and what is this? Doesn't make sense. But then you look at the words, at the vocabulary list, and then it makes sense to you, and then you remind yourself. And so later on, when you do another recall check, it now well retained in the memory. And it's much stronger than just the usual repetition, rote repetition. Then whenever these words come back for the next phase, when it's still fresh, not yet uh, installed in the long-term memory, it's good to recall those images. Later on, it becomes automatic and you can let go completely of the images. For example, myself, when I learn a new chant, I usually use some images. After I chanted it several times, I feel very confident about it. I may still use it, those images for some time. Eventually, I let go because it's already immersed in my memory. So this is a very powerful technique. I found it very helpful in learning Hindi, in learning Thai, in learning chanting, in learning Pali, and learning even kind of some quotes and things about Dhamma. So this is just a basic layout of how to use it. Those of you who will try it and might have questions are always welcome to ask, or if you have doubts about it. And there are, of course, later on more refined ways of using it. After one knows how to use it about words, it's a bit different of how to use it for grammar and so on. But it's good to learn it bit by bit. If one try to complicate himself, eventually it doesn't make sense. So I just stop here for now about this. And any questions so far about spaced repetition and about kind of using a visual memory and kind of this imagination thing. Okay.
So number 5, Ajan, number 5 is Rao.
Rao. Yeah, we.
Rao is a surname in India.
You see, so already having association is a helpful thing. It's immediately kind of create some kind of anchor to relate
And
to
what is
something.
this form plus gap? How do you combine them?
Sorry again.
Then below Rao, you have written form gap. Me plus someone.
Just a moment.
In the, number 5. Number 5. Yeah.
So, this is like when you want to say, for example, Tisaro, Bante Tisaro and myself went to the market, went to pin the bag. So I say pom, which is me, gap, gap. Gap with is means end. Pom gap Tisaro. Pom gap Bante Tisaro. Myself and Bante Tisaro. So gap
Okay.
is the connecting word in this context.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So this is one list, this kind of pronoun. So, for example, one can learn it, and then one can go to, after one
Can,
learns
can
the
we
pronoun. Hmm?
can we go through these 9 one by one and try to understand?
Yes,
Because the pronouns are very important.
the
Form
pronouns.
form is form we have used earlier also, so we know.
Yeah.
Me,
Okay.
my.
So I just say there is a bit of correction here. So I will say it and then it's also in the recording. So I and me is both for male and for female, pom is good enough. Here they wrote just male, but actually female also sometimes use it. And then chan, nowadays only female use it. So you can try to say it, please. Pom and chan.
Home and Chan.
Yes, very
So
good. So
we
if
will
there
use
one
form.
pom, it's P
Home.
with a aspirated sound, similar
Home.
to like pool, yeah, flower in Hindi, pool.
Cool. Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't become like F, it's just a aspirated P, pom. And
Home.
whenever you see this kind of TH, PH, it's an aspirated. It's not become like the English TH, the. It's like te, Thai, yeah, or pom. So when there is PH or TH, it's just an aspirated consonant. Okay, I go to number 2. Maybe somebody else can try. So kun, it's you, yeah?
Khun,
Kun.
khun.
Also KH might, yeah, kun. Yes, kun, you.
K is being
Then there's
pronounced as
also
KH.
care.
K is being pronounced as we pronounce KH in English, is it?
Correct. KHUN. Sorry, I didn't correct what the list was given to me, but um,
So, Bante, will it be the same as when you refer as Mr. like Khun Sek and Khun both sound
right,
similar?
right,
Mm,
right, correct. Kun is like Mr. Yeah,
okay,
but it's also you.
okay. But the pronunciation are same for both.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
KHUN. For example, you want to say, what do you like? You say, Kun chop arai. It's like, what do you like? But also when you say, Mr. Nikhil or Mr. Mishra is coming, you say, Kun Mishra is coming. Yeah, it's also Mr. It's kind of respected, a bit like G in Hindi. Yeah. up. Yeah. So it's also used as kind of a title. Kun, let's say Kun Becker. Mr. Becker will come, whatever. Then ter. It's pronounced a bit like the English ER, yeah, like ter. It's not like ter or yeah, ter. Can you try?
Ter,
Yeah. So
ter,
the R is almost like W. Okay, ter.
ter,
Yeah, ter.
ter.
Ter. Yeah. Okay, it's similar to how American people, I think they are like TR.
Peter,
TR. Ter.
Peter, ter,
Ter. Yeah, that's it.
ter.
Sound more correct. Yeah, and this means like informal, a bit like tum. Yeah. When you approach a monk though, or also royalty, you will use tan, like tan Navajo, tan Tisero. This is how they call us. They don't call us kun or ter. They call us tan. THAN. Tan. Can you try tan Ajan?
Hanajan, Hanajan.
Yes.
So it has a H, so it's not T, it's TH kind of.
Yeah, THAN. And the TH means like aspirated T. Tan.
Tan.
Yeah.
So what is why do we call some people Ajan and some people Than Ajan?
So Ajan basically means a teacher, like Acharya. And in our community, Ajan is after 10 years of being a monk. And Tan Ajan will be even more kind of respectful. It's like Venerable Ajan. I think this will be more appropriate, for example, for Tan Ajan Kevali, for example. Somebody who is already 20 years a monk, usually. But it's not like your iron rules. It's kind of, sometimes people will call a new monk an Ajan, or Ajan, they will call him somebody with 10 panzas, 10 reins. They will call him Tan Ajan. But generally in our community, we use for somebody below 10 years of below 10 reigns, they will call him just Tan. Then after more than 10 reigns, it will be Ajan. And then maybe 20 years it will be Tan Ajan. As a kind of general, it's not really accurate rules, but general custom. So he and him is cow, yeah. Again, it's KH, it's an aspirated K, cow. Cow. Can you try?
Cow.
Anyone wants to try? Yes.
Cow.
Yes. Okay, correct.
Cow is like eating food.
In Hindi.
Yeah. It's also in Thai. Cow can means also rice. So it's kind of become also the word for eating food in Thai also. Cow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So we're not going to say he and eating. That's
Nah.
very dangerous.
I think it's pronounced a bit different, yeah. Yeah. So
No, but same
cow.
word is used for
Cow
he.
for rice, also it's a bit more. He. Yes. He
He
and
and
she
she.
are the same word, cow.
Same word. Okay.
Yes.
It doesn't have a tonal difference like the one between rice and he.
So for he and she, there is no, it's just the same word. Yeah. It's simply, they don't make a differentiation between male and female in this case. So cow just means somebody, whether it's a male or a female, it's both go. So in a way, it's more easy actually.
But
Yeah.
if you say rice, that will be also cow, or it will be a rising tone or a
No,
falling.
the rise is a different tone.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
falling the cow, and this is cow. It's more like high tone, cow, and the rise is cow. It's falling a cow. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Rao, Rao.
So we went
So
to
here
Bodh Gaya. How would you say it?
Hmm?
We went
Again,
to Bodh Gaya. Say Rao.
Rao, Dai Pai, Bodh Gaya.
Went
Pai
is
is go. Dai, when you say Dai Pai, it's kind of making it into past many times. It's a bit also, there are some exceptions, but basically, Rao Dai Pai means we went Bodh Gaya. It's a very simple in a way. The Thai sentence is almost always correct somehow. It does it. Rao Dai Pai Bodh Gaya. Yeah. Almost no connecting word, you see. Like in Hindi, it will be Ham, Bodh Gaya,
Gaya.
Gaya. Yeah. Hmm. Or often you will have some kind of ko or ke liye or something like that. But in Thai, oftentimes you will meet them. This kind of connecting words. Now, poor kun. It sometimes will be just kun as well, but poor kun is kind of more the inclusive.
So kun is only singular, and Pok kun is
Plural, yeah. But sometimes also it might be kun refer to plural, as far as I know. Yeah. So puak, can you say puak kun? It's a falling tone. You see this triangle, yeah? Puak kun.
Pok kun. Pok kun.
Yes. Yes, correct. So later the thing is to memorize it when you practice. After you memorize it, it becomes much easier to use it in sentences.
Pok cow. Oh no.
Poor cow.
So
So it's the same cow of he or she, but now it becomes them. And because it's plural, it's puak. Poor cow.
Pok
Pok.
word by itself, what does it mean?
Puak.
Hmm.
In this sense, it makes things plural. So
By itself, it has no meaning.
it can also mean like multitude in a way, or puak. It's like it always comes with another word. It can be poor corn, mean many people, or poor cow, poor crow. It's kind of another way to say we. So it always comes with another word and make it into plural, into or multiple. Yeah.
is there any trick in terms of remembering the tone? Do you have any tricks to? Because that's what I think is very difficult to
Yeah.
remember the tonal aspect and how to. Is there anything or just rely on the memory?
Okay. Then good question. I think I will refer it in few minutes. When I show you also, there is a new table of the tones. So maybe after this one, I will show it, and then I connect how to use the tones with the pronouns and how to remember it. Okay. So ni is also kind of a high tone.
Ni.
Ni. When it's high, it's also raised a bit in the end. Ni. Kind of, there is a little bit of raising. You can also feel it in the throat.
Ni.
Ni.
None. Ni.
Yeah. Ni. This.
None.
This means something close to us. We observe an object close to us. Then number 9 will be none. Also, it's a high which raise a bit. None.
None. None.
So the last N is a bit higher than the first N. None. None. Yes. Okay. So this is a very okay. This is wrong. So basically just 9. I think for some reason it's connected to another list. So basically until number 9 is relevant. Sorry. I will erase later on the next sentences. Okay, so now I will show the next, the tone tables. Okay. Okay, do you get the table? Do you see that?
Yes, Peter.
Okay, internet connection is unstable.
No,
Hello?
no, that.
Do you see this, the screen, the tone table,
Yes, sir.
tone marks
Yes,
table? Okay, great. So as you can see, there are 5 tones. So we have in the beginning the tone title, and underneath there is middle, low, falling, high, and rising. These are the 5. Now, after the mid-tone, we have the mark. For now, we will ignore this line, and we go to the third, the third is the symbol. This is important when you look at the transliteration. So for mid-tone, there is no diacritic sign, you see? None, no diacritic sign. So when there is no sign, it means it's middle tone. And middle tone, and soon I will show again the graph, which I showed maybe last time or the time before, is pretty much stable tone, like ma.
Ma.
On number 4, we have an example, yeah? So after the symbol, we have example, ma. So it's like, there's a tiny bit of lowering of the tone in the end of the word. Look, ma. The end A is a
Ma.
bit lower than the first M. Ma. But it's generally kind of middle. The list is low tone. So it's written grave. We ignore that line, and we go to the symbol. So we have the symbol of diagonal line going, if you so this is a sign, kind of a diagonal line. And then we have an example of ma. So this is a lower sound. We can see
Yeah.
how it's written. And
Bante, can you
after the
increase
first
the
sorry?
can you increase the font so that we can see this decreasing these circumference and grave? They are not very distinct. If you can increase the font, probably they'll become enough space to make it font.
or maybe some zoom for the sheet.
Yeah?
The
Better?
right one, the right one, the right one. The right one. Yeah.
More? Is this what better?
Yeah, certainly better. Yeah, we can at least see the difference.
Okay, so here on the third line, we have the diacritic symbol.
So first is ma, second is ma. What's the difference between their sounds?
Yeah. So if we have a diagonal, yeah.
You can make it 200. Yeah.
So the diacritic, it's good to remember how exactly it appears. You see? if it's a low sign, low tone, then there is a line. If we read it from left to right, then at the left it is high, and then it goes diagonally, right side, bottom. Yeah, this is clear to everyone?
Yeah.
How to recognize a low tone?
Mm.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
Yes.
this is very important because it appears in everywhere. So this table is important to master. It's actually just 5 tones, so it's not too difficult, but it can be a bit confusing because the symbols are a bit similar. So it's important to observe. Now, falling tone. We have triangle with the peak at the middle, at the center, you see? It's a kind of triangle, or let's make an angle, which the peak, the highest point, is just in the center, an angle, yeah? Which is completely the opposite of, for example, the rising tone. We have again this kind of angle, but here is the bottom point is at the center. So you see how falling and rising are completely the opposite of each other. You see? So this is important to remember. Falling, the peak is in the middle, and rising, in the middle you have the bottom. And then the high is just the opposite of the low. You see? The low, the left side is high, and the right side of the diagonal line is on the bottom. But the high is completely the opposite. The left side of the line is on the bottom, and the right side goes up to the peak. Yeah? Is it clear? The difference between high and low, they are completely the opposite of each other, and how to recognize it?
yeah.
Yes,
But
sir.
how to pronounce it now?
Okay, so if this is all clear, how to read it, and you can of course repeat it at your own time, just to remind yourself how to recognize the different signs. First, so one task is to recognize the signs and know the name. Then the second task is, after you know which tone it is, what is the name of it, how it should actually sound. So maybe now I will stop the sharing of the screen. Do I just, I do it just by pressing on the share button, or
No, you can kindly speak out
so I'm
these
back
words.
to my own screen? Do you see? Speaker, do you hear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. We
This
can
is
hear.
the graph of the sound. So as you can see, each sound has a different kind of line. So for example, the middle tone, can you see? It's right in the middle. And in the beginning, it goes pretty much flat, pretty much stable, and then eventually it's go a bit down in the end of the sound. So I take this example of the word ma. You see, ma. It sounds pretty much stable, and in the end there is kind of a bit of lowering down of the tone. You can also feel it in the throat. There's ma. In the end, it's a bit lower in the throat. Now, for example, the rising tone, it starts a bit under the middle tone, as you see. If you can recognize this line, it will be good. And you see it starts a bit lower than the middle tone, and it continue to go down and then rise quite swiftly, very much up. So we have this, again, this example of ma. So it starts a bit lower, ma, and goes a bit to the bottom, very low, and then rise very swiftly to the highest. So ma, ma. So middle will be ma, and with almost no change. And the falling tone and the rising tone, excuse me, is starting a bit lower, and it has this very line, ma, ma, very swift change. Now the high tone, the falling tone is quite much the opposite of the rising tone. So it starts a bit higher, goes even higher than it starts, and then swiftly go down. So it's, for example, ma, ma, ma. So there is a short time when it rises up, and then it goes swiftly down. Ma. And very much in the bottom. Ma. Ma. And then we have the low and the high, which are also pretty much mirroring each other. So the low starts lower and goes even lower, lowest. So ma. It's parallelly a bit lower than the middle tone. So middle will be ma, ma, and low will be ma, 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 and ma. Kind of parallel, but lower. And then the high tone start higher and then even highest. So ma, ma, ma. So this is a basic graph. Now, don't expect yourself to get it perfectly right in the beginning, but just have in mind the general line. Then later with practice and with listening, and I will give you another actually recommendation, which will join the first recommendation that I gave in the beginning of the lesson, but there are also very good recordings. So this is 2 tasks you have. One task is when you read a word to recognize which tone it is. After you have the tone, to recognize how it should sound and to pronounce it correctly. Don't be too heavy about having it perfectly pronounced in the beginning. You will get the correct sense after listening more and practicing to do it out with time. Another thing I have to point out already is that this kind of pronunciation that I brought up now with this graph is very accurate in terms of this is how it should sound ideally. But when people, for example, speak quickly, then it's pretty much reduced. So the music of the sound is more monotonous. There's just very little changes, and usually the last word in the sentence will be the most clearly pronounced in the right tonal way. But the first words will be usually more kind of flat. So just to put it already. But as you practice in the beginning, try to have it the correct way, kind of how it should be read. For example, this is how it will be read in a radio or in a television or whatever. But when people actually speak kind of quickly or practically, the usual way of speaking is much more flat, just as a general. Last word in a sentence will be more kind of as it should be. So these are the 2 tasks about correct pronunciation. Now the other recommendation we wanted to do is another book, or there is also actually a direct link to the internet with a recording of Not What Banana Chat, which is very helpful and it's very relevant to the monastic situation. It's all about how to speak Thai in a monastery. It was written by an ex-monk, a person who used to be a monk for many years, about 20 years. Eventually, he stopped being a monk, and he made this kind of book of how to speak Thai in a monastery, which is useful. And it's very easy to find it in the internet. So this book is called Pra Farang. Pra Farang. And it's also as a subtitle, Thai Primer. I'll write it so it will be clear. Clear? Can you all see that?
Yes, Bante.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Bante.
So this is a very helpful one. Also, it's a bit more advanced than type for beginners, so it's maybe better to start with type for beginners. But in order to hear a bit of the Thai sound, it's very good. There are recordings with every sentence, with repetition, so you have sentence and then it's played 3 times or so, slow and fast. It's another very helpful tool, and it's all in the context of a monastery. You can find it in the internet. So these are few advices of how to learn. Maybe now it's time to question and conclude the session for today. Next time, maybe we'll do some game again to engage those things that we have already learned, because it then strengthens them. And again, just to give another kind of general advice. So for example, one learn the pronouns, have a more sense of a mastery of them. Then there are, for example, in the folder, there are sentences with objects. So one can see how the pronoun comes with an object. And this also strengthens later on the memorization of both of them. So, for example, one learn I, you, he, she, and then one learn I put the book on the table or whatever. And then the words which were learned separately become kind of more meaningful in a context, and it recommend to learn first the vocabulary, just word by word, and then try to find the sentences where the vocabulary is applied. So in the folder, there are sentences with adjectives. For example, I am rich, which is not true, but for example, or I am happy, you are sad, whatever. And then there are sentences with objects. There is also a list of objects which you can learn word by word. So it's good maybe to learn one list of vocabulary and one list of sentences. This is for now, I think, enough advices. Any questions for today? All right. Then thank you for participating, and next time, see you again.
Let us pay respects to Ajahn.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, Honorable. Thank you very much.
आप कौन कर आप
Okay.
Popcorn Club, Bante.
ด้วยความยินดี ด้วยความยินดี with pleasure ด้วยความยินดี เช่นกันใหม่ see you again เช่นกัน
Shergan Mai.
दिमाग खराब
very good okay
Shareกันไหม
okay yes